Hey everyone, Taylor and Justin here to talk about, well, I guess I'll start by saying we have some good news and some bad news. The good news is the ESAs passed.
ESAs for Tennessee?
Yes, so we're really excited about that, but the bad news is that unfortunately there's still a lot of misinformation kind of swirling around out there.
Well, at least the misinformation didn't prevent legislators from passing it. It barely passed.
Barely passed, so it was close.
At least it didn't have that big of an effect.
Right, but we still want to kind of set the record straight on some things, and Justin did a great blog post about frequently asked questions about ESAs. So what we're going to do is we're going to play a little game. I'm going to give Justin a myth that I've heard on the road traveling around talking about ESAs, and he's going to counter it with what the actual facts are. So we've got 5 for you. So are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
Okay, number 1. A lot of people are saying that ESAs are not fiscally conservative because there's going to be all this money spent on it.
Right.
Truth is,
well, when you look at the fiscal note, it sounds big. It's several $100 million, but that's money that is being shifted from existing dollars that we spend on that child, and we're essentially allowing the parents to choose, rather than the bureaucrats, how that money is spent. So it's not new money. No. It's actually the money that we already spend per child. There is some grant funding that the governor proposed that's included, $25 million a year. That would go to struggling schools in addition to that, but that's not the ESA itself that's flowing. That's a separate issue. And he was able to do that with using existing revenue, not raising taxes. In fact, they cut taxes significantly this year, so it's not new money that's being spent. It's just money being redirected elsewhere that we're already spending.
And how could you not like the sound of that? More freedom for taxpayers with that. Okay, so 1 myth, check. Number 2, this one gets under my skin the most. ESAs equal vouchers.
Right.
People are confusing the terminology, calling them vouchers. So let's clarify that.
Yeah, they try to say, well, it's a marketing ploy, you're just changing the name, because the left, the teachers union, and others have demonized the term vouchers. But ESAs are really vouchers 2.0. With vouchers, you can just send your kid to a private school, and that money that we already spend on your child would follow you to that private school. With ESAs, you actually get a debit card, and you can use it for private school tuition, you can use it for tutoring, therapy, curriculum. There's a list of things that are approved that you can use it for, like a health savings account that many of us have, where you can use it for certain health-related expenditures. Education savings accounts are the education version.
So much freedom.
HSAs.
Again, more freedom. We just keeps it's a recurring theme. Okay, the third, so myth number 2, check. Third myth. ESAs are going to ruin our public schools.
Well, of course. We all want to ruin our public schools.
Doom and gloom, skies falling.
As a product of public schools, lifelong product, I've never attended a private school in my life. I have no interest in destroying our public schools. The reality is, unfortunately, however, our public schools aren't doing that great, especially in our urban areas. And many, many kids are falling through the cracks as a result of that. So this will empower their families to give them options at a better education. And studies show that not only do those kids who use ESAs and other types of choice do better, but the public schools improve as well. You put a Kroger down the street from Publix, Publix is going to have to step up its game. And that's the same situation that occurs with public schools when they're subject to programs like ESAs.
We love competition in the market.
That's right.
That's great. All right, myth 3, check. Number 4, this is an interesting one that I had not thought of, so I'm curious to hear what you have to say about this. ESAs are going to bring more government control into education, specifically religious education in schools like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of concern about private school supporters and homeschoolers and others that this is some kind of camel's nose under the tent. Right. The reality is, if you read the bill that passed and got sent to the governor this week, there are several provisions that say private schools are not actors of the state. You cannot regulate them in any way other than by passing new legislation, which the General Assembly could already do. Right. So it significantly limits the ability of the government to interfere with private schools, including their curriculum. They will have to test those kids that are taking ESAs in math and English, but not in social studies and science, because the way they teach those things, the time at which they teach, the years at which they teach those things can be different from school to school. Right. So it really preserves that autonomy while making sure that the program is working.
There's accountability.
And the kids are getting a good education.
Accountability and freedom. Again, common theme here. Myth number 4, check. Last one, and you kind of touched on this earlier, but a lot of people are saying, well, other states that have ESAs, the student outcomes aren't really that much better.
Right.
But the truth is,
the vast majority of studies show improvement. Yes. A few studies show no really measurable difference. A study or two here and there has shown some negative effects, but literally, 90+% of the studies show positive improvements among not only the kids who are taking the ESA and exercising choice, but the kids who remain in public schools. You have higher per pupil funding because a portion of the funding stays. You have smaller classrooms.
Better ratios.
All those things that proponents of public schools have said we want, you get that with the ESAs.
I see no problem with it.
It's a win-win solution for everybody.
So those are the 5 myths that we've heard the most. If you have any more questions, things that you've heard that you'd like us to set straight, let us know.
Thank you.
Thanks.